Welcome to Surgeon Syndicate. If you're paying attention, you know that you only make money when you work. It might be great money, but it's dependent on you. The information on this podcast will help you solve that. We interview experts and provide analysis into financial freedom through commercial real estate. Why? To help physicians like you thrive. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Surgeon Syndicate. This is your host, Dr. Michael McManus. Today, I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Not someplace I spend a lot of time, but I'm out here for a conference. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the cool hotel background. Anyway, so I'm out here because I got invited to come to an event by some old friends and associates to come to this conference for high-level executive coaches. So why would they invite me? This is my history. So before I went to medical school, I was a ski coach, pretty high-level ski coach, worked in places like Aspen and Beaver Creek. So after medical school, with this background of coaching, when I started doing some other things, like I'd had a shoulder injury, and although I had a lot of history of working through shoulder injuries in the past, of working in the weight room, I wasn't really getting any better. And so I hired a special trainer who helped me work through this. And it was one of these realizations along the way, like, yeah, I know a lot of stuff. Probably most people listening to this know a lot of stuff, but sometimes that a lot of stuff is not the right stuff, or not all the stuff we need to really get to that next step. And so that was really a breakthrough in my health. And, at one point I started doing some masters bike racing, because bike racing was something I did when I was younger. And I was horrible. Like, I came back, I thought I was pretty fit, and I'm just in the back of the bunch, and it was just bad news. And I was getting a little better. And so but it was a lot of fun, especially, racing cyclocross. I don't know if anybody knows about cyclocross, but when you live in the Midwest and you have these long, dreary falls, it gives something to do. It's this, as my daughter says, this silly sport where you ride your bike around in the mud and sometimes pick it up and carry it because you can't ride it. But beyond that, if you're going to do something, I like to do it well. I've always had a hard time doing something poorly. So, after the first season, I want to be better at this. And how do I train? And, I had training books, and there's new stuff online. And finally said, look how much better I got with a trainer. Before, when I was skiing, I got better because I worked with elite coaches. So I hired a coach, worked with this coach, came out the next season, and I started winning races. I didn't feel like I worked any harder as far as when I was training and riding, but I was doing the right thing. So it wasn't just effort, it was doing the right effort. And it's totally changed everything. So after that, hiring coaches kind of became a normal thing for me. When I went through burnout as a surgeon, I hired a coach, and that was a hard step because, we as doctors, this was kind of falls into this, like life coach, and we make fun of these people. And so, but there's a process and there's a knowledge of how to work through things in your head that most of us, especially surgeons, are not good at. And actually, the way our training is, it actually teaches us a lot of really bad mindset things, a lot of bad performance things, as far as it kind of teaches us to get in that mill and grind through the mill in one direction, in one way. And then when you look at, there's some docs out there that, man, they just kill it and they're happy. And some of them are lucky that they fell in that right spot. They're doing something for the right way. But there's a lot of docs that aren't happy. And a lot of it is how they approach their job, how they approach their life, the things you focus on. And so working with a coach really turned that around, and turned me, instead of, kind of being crushed by my job, to looking at our practice and going, well, not only what can I change that it doesn't crush me, but what can I change that makes it excellent, that makes it more excellent for me. So I love coming in, more excellent for our patients, so they're getting even better care and better access to care, more excellent for our employees, so they love coming to work. And the funny thing, you start pushing those buttons, and that was actually, some of the push towards the end of me retiring and leaving the practice is I got excited about this change and making things better. And I saw these opportunities. And as I started working in real estate with these high-level business people, I saw things were done that they were kind of like, that's kind of silly. Why do you do it that way? And it's kind of like, well, that's the way we've always done it. That's what we say in medicine. Although we like to talk about, moving medicine forward and evidence-based medicine, we do a lot of things in the practice that are just the way they've always been done. So I start pushing for these changes and nobody else wants them. It's too much, too fast. And when things are good, people are like, oh, no, no, don't mess with that. So it's funny. It was, I went through the burnout. The coach really helped me get to another place. But then in that other place, I was pushing forward and it was too much for the people around me. And then it kind of became its own problem trying to get better. But, from the real estate perspective, there were two big events that really changed my life. I mean, it changed my life. It changed my real estate career, but it changed my life. One was meeting a mentor who just really gave me access to the people and the knowledge that I could run deals by. I could learn about things in commercial real estate and things in, when you get into retail and industrial that are harder to find out. And it gave me the confidence to start doing things because I could run everything through the group and through this mentor. And you're like, okay, now it's hard to mess things up if you have experienced great mentors to keep you from going down the wrong road. But I also hired a coach, a very expensive coach. That kind of, and actually I met the mentor through the coach. So I hired the coach who kind of laid out the whole thing. And it's amazing how much when we're investing, how many things are just that we're hung up on. It's not just having the knowledge, but where we get hung up, it's having the self-knowledge to be able to work past that and know, what things we need more education, what things it's a red flag because it's a bad deal, and what things are maybe just us getting hung up because it's scary, because it's different or new. So that was really my introduction to the coaching world. And at one point, when I was looking to exit medicine, I was looking at other things. And, through all these things, I got introduced to this group of high-level executive coaches, and a few of them were docs. And they're like, this is, they were exciting people and fun to be around. And I'd coach for, as soon as they find out you've been a coach of any kind, they're like, you should look at doing this. This is pretty cool. So, I actually went through a coaching certification process and I was going to do it a little bit on the side, but I just really couldn't fit it into the practice. There was no way to do it. So now here we are. I reconnect with some of them and they're like, come to this event, hey, you were a coach, come to this thing. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go. I haven't seen them in a while. Some of these people, they're from across the country and some of them are from Europe. They're all getting together. So I'm like, even if it's just to get together with some of these people, I'm going to go and check this out again. And so, it's funny, you can't BS this crowd because as soon as you start making any excuse or you talk about something, they're so good. They smell the BS, and they start asking questions and you're like, wait a minute, we're eating dinner. How am I getting coached? And and you start finding your own excuses for why you're not doing things that you want to do or you intended to do. Um, and so one of the conversations that came out of this, because actually they liked the idea of the podcast, and a couple of them, actually the ones who invited me, have actually been listening to the podcast and giving me some really tough critiques too. But um, it we talked about what's been going on with the podcast, and one of the big things I've seen is doctors have a lot of doctors, and I think a lot of people have this roadblock they hit in their investing, or when it comes to investing alternative assets like commercial real estate. There's some wall they hit. And I've always kind of looked at it with some of the people I work with in the real estate industry, like, yep, some people just aren't going to do it. let them go. Like you can't bring everybody with you. Open the bus door and let the people get on who want to get on, and leave everybody else at the bus stop. So we were having these discussions about what it is and why people do and don't move into scary new things, even when these scary things can change their life and make their life better. Why people won't work with a coach, even when they've got evidence that working with a coach can just accelerate their success or pull them out of where they're stuck. They won't invest in alternative assets. They'll invest in the stock market and watch it take, 20% plunges, but somehow that's okay because everybody else is stuck there. Or it was with a professional money manager, so you couldn't have done any better. Um, and so why do they get stuck? And the biggest things that these coaches came up with is the biggest one is fear. And the second one is that it's not normal. Excuse me, that you're kind of outside of the normal range of what people like me do. This isn't what things like me do. And then there's a lot of other reasons. But those are very individual. And those are the things that take, professional coaches, that they dig in and find out what the roadblocks are. And it's funny. And I was like, well, come on, we got to have something that I can generalize and I can use to help people more and that we can use on the show. And they're like, no, it's not, and like, some of these people are working with like Olympic athletes or people starting billion-dollar companies, that they've raised $100 million for a company, or just it's incredible that the people that they're working with and that these people are exceptional, but they still get hung up on themselves and they need somebody to bring them through to realize their full potential and that everybody's different. So, um, we're talking about this again, like with real estate and helping docs, find this thing that could change their life. It's this thing that gave me financial freedom and a work optional lifestyle. Uh, and so part of it's education. You got to know, you got to learn. We all know that from medical school. You can't just be a doctor because you think it's cool. You've got to learn. But then taking that next step is more of a mindset thing. And for us as doctors, there was never oh, do I take the next step? Am I good enough? Do I know enough? Because we were on a set plan. You go to medical school for 4 years. Then you don't go, do I really want to push on into residency? You just do, because that was the whole point. You spent this money to go to medical school. Now you go to residency. And when you get out of residency, you're not like, oh, do I really want to work as a doctor? This is scary. You're on the path, and the path is defined, and everybody around you is on the same path. So it's completely normal. So although it's scary, that first night of call as a resident, or the first night of call when you're out of residency and you don't have a backup person anymore, those are scary things, but they're all things that all of your peers are going through. And so they're normal. But when you start looking at investing in alternative assets and the docs around you aren't doing it, unless you're lucky, because there are a few people, they get into a group uh, at their home place, and there's other people doing it. And so it's very normal and they ride along and they have great success. But what about everybody else? How do you get them to take the leap? And it's always this leap or it's fear, and you just got to get past the fear. And I had this great conversation at dinner last night. This guy really specializes in fear. And there's actually neuroscience behind this, how if we're ingrained that something is scary as a kid, it's hardwired into our nervous system, into our brain, so that things that strike that same fear come back. And it so they're like these micro traumas that we talk about, or that there's some little thing, and it's really interesting when you talk to these people who really understand this. It didn't have to be some horrible event. It could have been just some overriding thing that these things are scary, stay away from them, stay in the crowd, or I don't know. They gave me some examples I don't remember, but a lot of those people there, the way their brain is set, they can't take a leap. And so what they were talking about is that the people then who don't, some people can take a leap. They're like, okay, I got enough information, I'm jumping in, but other people need more steps. and it's the way their brain is wired that they can't take a leap. And so they need more steps. And part of that is, if the education you've been getting, so you've read the book, you've listened to the podcast, it's all very one side information coming at you, but it's not interactive. We've talked about going to conferences, which can be a big scary leap for people too. But one of the things in between are webinars. So they challenged me. They're like, "Hey, great podcast. That's how much more can you help people now?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So to do some webinars, and the point of a webinar would be is that there can be a presentation to provide some more education, but then some one-on-one where people can ask questions. And these will be smaller groups. You sign up for the webinar, there's time for everybody to get a little attention. And then, so now my job is, and what the challenge has been, to figure out what will be the most beneficial webinar. So look forward to these. I'm kind of excited. I'm scared. I got the fear on this because it's really, the podcast was scary getting started, but it's a one-way discussion. And normally I'm talking to somebody who's a real pro, and they're the ones bringing the biggest expertise. But to have people talking back, doing a webinar is a little bit scarier. So that's something we're going to start doing. And I hope this can serve everybody a little bit better. And maybe for some people who aren't investing, or who are, but want to do something new, or just, want to do a little better at what they're doing, that this can help serve you a little bit better too. So look for that. We're going to get those rolling out here in the next few weeks, our Surgeon Syndicate webinar series, to help give you a little more interactive education, and a place that you can also meet some of your peers, hopefully, in the Zoom link there. So look for those, and I hope this has been helpful for you. I just wanted to share some of this amazing week I'd had, and thanks for joining us today on Surgeon Syndicate. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Do you care about paying too much in taxes? And would you like to save more of your hard-earned dollars? Here's what we found. We found that most financial professionals have a one-size-fits-all solution. So the question is, would it make it easier for you to have someone tailor your tax solutions to your individual needs so you can keep more of your money and do what you want with it? That is exactly what we do at 𝐥𝐸.
As surgeons, we know the difference between routine surgery versus life-threatening interventions. And I want you to know that I've used 𝐲𝐶 and her team for my personal financial intervention, and I love the results. I would do you a disservice if I didn't recommend them to you.
We'd love to help you, so let's jump on a call and see how we can collaborate. Simply go to www.𝐥𝐸stra.com/McManus and book your free call today.
This has been an episode of Surgeon Syndicate. If you got value from this episode, you know other surgeons are hungry to become job optional, and you can help them by sharing this content today. Schedule a call and we can make a plan. Looking forward to having you with me on the next episode.